Blood type may be a sad destiny that increases the risk of stroke before age 60. We rarely think that something as simple and seemingly harmless as our blood type, something we're born with and cannot change, could silently influence our future, potentially cutting it short in the most unexpected way. A recent study involving nearly 617,000 people has raised a somber warning. Your blood type may affect your risk of having a stroke at a young age, even before the age of 60. And that realization brings with it a quiet sorrow, especially for those who thought they still had decades of healthy life ahead. Researchers analyzed data from over 17,000 stroke patients between the ages of 18 and 59, alongside nearly 600,000 healthy individuals. What they found was both surprising and unsettling. Our blood type, something we never chose, might partially determine our fate. Some individuals with a genetic variation linked to blood type A, referred to as A1, were found to have a 16% higher risk of early-onset stroke compared to the general population. On the other hand, those with a variant linked to blood type O, referred to as O1, had a 12% lower risk. These numbers may seem small, but in the world of medicine, they can mark the difference between life and death, between a happy family and a shattered future. Imagine a 55-year-old man who just took early retirement to spend more time gardening and enjoying peaceful mornings with his wife, only to suddenly collapse from a stroke, never to wake again. Or picture a 48-year-old mother of two, healthy and active, carrying the A1 gene variant, suddenly losing her ability to speak or move, her dreams interrupted in an instant. The saddest part is the sense of helplessness, knowing that this risk was written into our blood before we ever had a say in it. While we can control our diet, quit smoking, or exercise more, we can't change our blood type. But perhaps what's even more tragic is that so many people are completely unaware of this hidden risk, until it's far too late. Could be your friend, a coworker, a loved one, people we laugh with every day, and then one morning we get a phone call that changes everything. To be clear, scientists emphasize that blood type is only a small part of the puzzle. Lifestyle factors like diet, physical activity, vascular health, and cholesterol levels still play a much larger role in stroke risk. But that doesn't erase the discomfort of knowing that something as unchangeable as your blood type might be pushing you closer to danger. This study, published in the well-respected journal Neurology, isn't meant to cause fear or anxiety. Instead, it serves as a gentle but serious reminder that human health is fragile and that we must care for it with attention and love. No matter your blood type, how you treat your body each day is still the most powerful tool you have to protect yourself. So, if you're holding a lab report in your hand that says you're type A or B, don't panic. Let that knowledge empower you. Let it encourage you to live with more awareness, to eat better, move more, get regular checkups. Because somewhere deep in those lab numbers, there may be a sad story quietly unfolding, one that you have the power to rewrite if you start paying attention now. A quiet yet haunting discovery from this research is that blood type A1 may carry a higher risk of early stroke. For many, it's just a cold medical statistic, but for those who carry this blood type, it becomes a lingering sadness, a silent fear that follows them throughout life. According to findings from top scientists around the world, individuals with certain genes associated with blood type A1 face a 16% higher risk of stroke before the age of 60 compared to the general population. At first glance, this number may seem small, but in medical terms, it is a significant difference, and for human lives, it can mean the line between happiness and tragedy, between a full life and a sudden, irreversible event. Imagine a man who has just turned 50, finally planning his first family vacation after many years of hard work. He doesn't smoke or drink, faithfully exercises every morning, and takes pride in his healthy lifestyle. What he doesn't know is that A1 blood type quietly exists in his body like an invisible ticking clock. Then, on an ordinary morning like any other, while making coffee for his wife, he collapses to the floor, his eyes frozen in confusion and despair. He doesn't understand what just happened, and by the time he arrives at the hospital, it's too late. Stroke has taken his life within minutes, leaving behind a hole that no amount of comfort can ever fill. Stories like this are not rare. Every year, hundreds of thousands of people around the world suffer strokes at a young age, and many of them unknowingly carry blood type A1. They leave behind dreams that were never fulfilled, plans that were never completed. They had no idea they were part of a higher risk group simply because of something they were born with, something they could never change or control. The greatest sadness lies not just in the statistics but in the sense of helplessness. We can choose a healthy lifestyle, eat nutritious food, stay active and manage our weight. But we can't choose our blood type. And that is a reality that leaves many people feeling unfairly vulnerable and quietly terrified. However, researchers emphasize that this increased risk is only a small part of the overall health picture. Having A1 blood type is not a death sentence. It is merely a contributing factor. Still, what makes this discovery feel unsettling is the idea that even if we do everything right, there is still something within us that could silently threaten our future. In moments of sadness like this, we can only hope that science will advance further to help neutralize such genetic risks. We hope that preventive and treatment strategies will soon evolve so people with this blood type will no longer live in constant anxiety. More than anything, we wish that no matter what blood type someone has, they will become more aware of their health, cherish their body more, and never ignore even the smallest warning signs. Because none of us truly knows what lies ahead. A life that seems steady and under control can be disrupted by a single inherited trait that we never even considered. And that is what makes the story of blood type A1 feel so quietly heartbreaking. While many still believe that stroke is a disease that only affects the elderly, a heartbreaking truth is gradually unfolding. The risk of stroke is increasingly affecting younger people, those who have just begun to enjoy the freedom of adulthood and are filled with hopes and dreams for the future. What's truly painful is that many of them have no idea that the danger is silently growing inside them. They have no congenital conditions, no warning signs, just a morning where they wake up feeling a little dizzy, and minutes later, their lives are changed forever. Research shows that beyond genetic factors like blood type or gene mutations, much of the stroke risk stems from modern lifestyles. A life full of pressure, physical inactivity, poor eating habits, and prolonged stress. Habits that seem harmless. Sitting at a desk all day, staying up late, eating too much processed food slowly accumulate and damage the blood vessels. There are no alarms, no clear symptoms, and then one day the heart is still beating but blood can no longer flow to the brain. There are people in their early 30s collapsing at their desks in the middle of a workday. Others fall unconscious while playing sports with friends. Stories like these are no longer rare. And each time it happens, a family is broken, a dream is left unfinished, a future is snatched away in the blink of an eye. The pain isn't only felt by the one who suffers, but also by their loved ones who are left behind, forced to live with a loss that never truly fades. The most helpless feeling comes when people realize that all of this could have been prevented. If only they had paid attention to their health sooner, if only they hadn't ignored those random headaches, if only they had taken time to exercise, sleep enough, eat well, and rest amidst the chaos of daily life. Sadly, many only realize this when it's already too late, when they are lying in a hospital bed or when there's no turning back. The sadness also lies in how modern society keeps pushing people to work harder, run faster, and sacrifice more to achieve wealth, recognition, and success. But sometimes the cost is health, lifespan, and happiness they never got to enjoy. Stroke does not discriminate. It doesn't care if you're successful or just ordinary. It doesn't ask what dreams you have, who you love, or how many plans you've made. It comes suddenly, steals everything, and leaves behind emptiness that nothing can truly fill. And yet there is still hope. As science continues to advance, studies like this one are not just warnings, but also reminders for all of us to love ourselves more, to treasure every heartbeat and every moment of being healthy, to listen to our bodies and never overlook small signs. Don't wait until tragedy strikes to wish you had slowed down or cared more about your health. Because in the end, the most valuable thing we have is not what we own, but life itself, the ability to feel, to love, to share, and to live each day fully while we still can. Modern science continues to open doors, helping us understand more about our own bodies. But some discoveries, while promising for medicine, bring with them a strange mix of uncertainty and sorrow. One such finding is the connection between blood type and the risk of stroke. Realizing that even the tiniest part of your DNA might quietly determine your fate is an unsettling and heartbreaking thought. Most people think of blood type as something only relevant when donating or receiving blood. Few would ever imagine that it might be silently influencing their risk of experiencing a life-altering stroke. For those with blood type A or B, this means they could be carrying a hidden risk even if they live healthily and do everything right. You don't get to choose your blood type. You can't change it. And yet, now we learn that something so out of our control could determine such a critical aspect of our lives. It's like walking on a road that seems solid, only to discover it's covered with thin ice that could break at any moment. People with the A1 gene variant have a 16% higher risk of early stroke. It may look like just a number, but behind that number are thousands of real people. Young people full of life, in love, building their futures, suddenly struck down by something they never saw coming. It's heartbreaking to imagine families losing sons, daughters, husbands, or fathers while they're still so young. It's painful to watch dreams be cut short by something as invisible and silent as a genetic code. What makes this even harder to accept is the cruel randomness of it all. Why is one person born with a protective O1 variant, while another is given the A1 or B variant that increases risk? Why must some live in fear of something they had no say in? No one knows the answer, and maybe that's what makes it feel even more unfair. In a world where we try so hard to stay in control, managing our diet, sleep, work, emotions, there are still forces beyond us. Blood type is one of them. And stroke might be the price we pay. Even though researchers say the increased risk from blood type is relatively small and not something to be overly worried about, that's easier said than done. How do you not worry once you learn that something in your DNA may be quietly raising your chances of a devastating health event? How do you stay calm knowing your loved ones might carry the same risk and never even know it? Still, in the sadness, there is a faint glimmer of hope. We may not be able to change our blood type, but we can change our lifestyle. This discovery is a major step forward. It gives scientists a clearer direction, helping them understand the underlying causes of stroke more deeply. This knowledge could one day lead to better ways to prevent or treat it. Maybe someday, a simple blood test will be enough to predict risk and guide people toward the right medical care before anything happens. But until science gets there, the only thing we can do is listen more closely to our bodies. We must cherish each heartbeat, each night of rest, every healthy meal, and every full moment of life we get to experience. Because the truth is, we don't know what's waiting for us around the corner. And we certainly don't know if there's a silent danger, like stroke, hiding within what we once believed was just a simple label, our blood type. In today's modern world, where medicine advances every day, humanity still cannot escape the fear called stroke. And perhaps the most heartbreaking part is realizing that the risk of this terrifying condition might already be flowing silently in our veins. Those with blood type B, even if they've never had any serious health issues, still live with an 11% higher risk of stroke throughout their lives simply because of a biological trait they never chose. It's hard to describe the feeling someone experiences when they discover they have blood type B and realize they carry a hidden danger that modern medicine still cannot fully eliminate. They might be young, full of energy, building their futures, or perhaps middle-aged, carefully watching their health to stay longer with their loved ones. But now they know something beyond their control exists inside them, quietly increasing the chance that their heart could suddenly stop, without warning, without mercy. In the most ordinary moments of life, from the laughter of children to the warmth of a family dinner, this truth remains, silently present like a constant shadow. And the deepest sadness doesn't come from knowing the risk itself, but from realizing there's nothing they can do to change where it comes from. You can't change your blood type. You can't rewrite your genetic code. You can't erase what nature has already written. All you can do is live alongside this fear, day after day, year after year, with a fragile hope that you won't become the next sad number in the stroke statistics. People often say knowledge is power, but sometimes knowledge feels like a burden. When you know that your blood type brings a higher risk, you start questioning everything. A small headache, could it be a warning? A skipped heartbeat, should you worry? You begin to look at family members with the same blood type with growing concern. You want to protect them, but deep down you know you can't even fully protect yourself. Still, in this sadness, there is a faint glimmer of hope. Discovering the connection between blood type and stroke risk could open up new pathways for medical research. If scientists can better understand the genetic mechanisms behind this link, maybe one day medicine will find a way to lower the risk for those with more vulnerable blood types. Maybe after years of living in fear, people will finally be able to fight back against what their genes have handed them. But until that day comes, all we can do is be more careful, love ourselves a little more, and cherish the small moments in life. Because life is always full of the unexpected. And sometimes, just one tiny detail inside our bodies can disrupt an entire lifetime's journey. Knowing that having blood type B could mean living with a greater risk is not meant to scare us into panic. Instead, it's a reminder to live more meaningfully. Don't wait for a crisis to appreciate your health. Don't wait until you're lying in a hospital bed to regret the things you didn't do. Live in a way that makes every day matter, so if one day the worst happens, you can look back with no regrets, knowing you loved yourself and your life enough to make it count. Although the new research suggests a connection between blood type and the risk of stroke, scientists emphasize that the increased risk associated with certain blood types is relatively small. But perhaps what saddens us most is not the degree of risk itself, but the realization that even the smallest things can make us more fragile than we ever imagined. When the doctor says your blood type isn't something you should worry too much about when it comes to stroke, you might feel a sense of relief. But then, deep down, you begin to wonder why that tiny percentage still haunts you. Because the truth is, no one wants to be that unfortunate exception in a sea of statistics. No one wants to become the tragic outlier in what otherwise feels like safety. There are young, healthy people who have never had any major illness, and yet they suddenly collapse from a stroke. They don't smoke, they don't drink, they eat well, they exercise. And then one morning they don't wake up. Their families drown in sorrow. Their loved ones live in regret for the rest of their lives. And what's left behind is a flood of unanswered questions. Why them? Why so soon? Why when they were living such a good and meaningful life? We're constantly told to focus on lifestyle, on eating habits, on managing cholesterol, blood pressure, and heart conditions. And yes, those are crucial. But who would have thought that buried deep within our DNA, somewhere hidden in our blood, there might already be a silent danger waiting to strike? That realization seeps in slowly, like a shadow of helplessness. We begin to feel betrayed by the fact that there are risks we simply cannot avoid, no matter how well we live. There are silent factors within us, in our genes, in our blood, that may have already decided part of our fate without ever asking for our consent. The sadness grows as we look around and realize that the people we love most might also be carrying that same invisible risk. Maybe it's our parents, the ones who still care for us every day. Maybe it's our childhood friend who's always been by our side. Maybe it's our little child we hold tight every night. The thought that any one of them could be next feels like a weight pressing on our chest. And so, the story of blood types is no longer just scientific data. It becomes a story of emotion, of love, of loss. It makes us ask ourselves, what can I do to protect them? What can I say when I can't change anyone's blood type or their DNA? Do I have the strength to live with this quiet fear constantly inside me? The answer, no matter how bitter, is that we must live. Live slowly, live mindfully, live with love. Because even if we can't control everything inside our bodies, we can still control how we face it. We can choose to love this life more, to care for one another more deeply, to remind each other to get regular health checkups, to never ignore even the smallest warning signs. Who knows, maybe that act of care could be the very thing that saves someone we love. Maybe this sad piece of science is what helps us see life more clearly, helping us treasure every single moment with the people we hold dear. Because in a world full of uncertainties, the only thing we can truly do is to live kindly, sincerely, and with deep gratitude for every day we still get to exist in this life. The risk of stroke may be higher for people with blood type B, not just at a certain stage of life but throughout their entire lifetime. That's something many people may have never thought about or even heard of. But now, with the numbers out and the scientific data speaking for itself, we can't help but feel a sense of worry and sadness. You are born with a certain blood type. You don't get to choose it. It's something you inherit from your parents, from your ancestors. And then, suddenly, one day you learn that this very blood type could put you at greater risk than others. Stroke. A sudden event that can take everything away in a split second. Those who carry blood type B now have one more reason to feel uneasy. Not because they live unhealthily, not because they don't exercise or care for their well-being. Simply because they carry a specific blood type that, according to research, could increase the risk of stroke by 11% over the course of a lifetime. That number may not sound huge, but it's enough to plant fear. Enough to make someone pause and reflect. Enough to make their loved ones worry. There are people who have never heard about the link between blood type and stroke. They live freely, they laugh, they love. Until someone in the family suddenly collapses and the doctor says it was a stroke, possibly linked to their blood type. At that moment, the pain isn't just from the loss. It's the helplessness. No one can change their blood type. No one can erase that risk completely. What's even more heartbreaking is that the risk isn't confined to a certain age. It doesn't only creep in during middle age or old age. It follows you from your youth when you are still dreaming, still believing your life is ahead of you. There are people with blood type B in their 20s and 30s. They are falling in love, building careers, hoping for a bright future. And it's sad to know that behind those smiles, a silent threat is waiting. You might wonder if fate is fair. Others with different blood types don't face the same level of risk. They get to live more peacefully, while you have to live with an invisible shadow. Is it fair that a tiny biological detail could shape your entire future? A question without an easy answer. But perhaps the most painful part is knowing there's nothing you can do to completely prevent it. You can live healthily, monitor your blood pressure, eat right, exercise regularly, and still your blood type remains. It is like a part of destiny quietly walking beside you to the end. There are children being born with blood type B right now. They are still innocent, still unaware of the world around them. But they will grow up carrying this built-in risk. If parents knew this, how could they not be heartbroken? How could they not worry every time their child complains of a headache, feels dizzy, or suddenly faints? All of this reminds us how fragile life really is. Human health hangs by a thread suspended between factors we can't control. Blood type, genetic structure, blood vessel shape all silently write a script that none of us can fully predict. But in that sadness, maybe the only thing we can do is live more meaningfully. Knowing you are at risk isn't meant to cause fear but to create awareness. To love your body more. To cherish the time left with family and friends. And to remind one another that health is not a guarantee. It's a precious gift we need to protect every single day. If you have blood type B, don't let the fear consume you. See it as a reason to live better, care for yourself more, and love others deeply. Because sometimes, it's in the face of uncertainty that we truly realize the value of each and every moment in this fleeting life. Blood type might seem like a simple detail about our bodies, something we note on our medical records and forget. But now, science has shown that it could be something far more profound, something quietly tied to our destiny. A tiny piece of our genetic code, located at a site called ABO in the human genome, might silently play a role in shaping some of the most critical events in our lives. And that realization brings with it a deep sense of sadness and helplessness. When scientists dug deeper into the connection between blood type and serious conditions like stroke, what they found was not just statistics, but the human stories hidden behind those numbers. The ABO gene region, which determines whether we are blood type A, B, AB, or O, may also influence the degree of coronary artery calcification, a key factor in heart attacks and strokes. And suddenly, it became clear that some people with certain genetic variants at this location might have their blood flow disrupted more easily. The blood, which should flow freely like a gentle river sustaining life, might instead slow down, become thick, heavy, and dangerously restricted. Arteries that work day and night to nourish the body could eventually be choked by calcium buildup, cutting off the vital flow, depriving the brain of oxygen, and triggering a stroke. The heartbreaking part is that most people who carry these genes have no idea. They live their lives as anyone would. They love, they dream, they raise families. They've done nothing wrong. They didn't choose this. And yet the risk lies dormant in their blood, waiting quietly for a moment of weakness in the body to strike without warning. Picture a young mother, walking through the park while pushing a stroller. She's smiling. The afternoon sun casts a soft golden light over her hair. And then, without warning, she collapses. People rush to her side. No one knows what's happening. Later at the hospital, the doctors say it was a stroke. And maybe part of the reason was the blood type she was born with. Her husband sobs in the hallway, unable to understand. Her baby will grow up without ever remembering the warmth of her touch or the sound of her laughter. One small stretch of genetic code, and the entire future of a family is changed forever. And that's not the end. The ABO gene has also been linked to the formation of venous blood clots, dangerous clumps that can travel to the lungs, heart, or brain, causing devastating consequences. Even before a stroke happens, one could suffer from a pulmonary embolism or deep vein thrombosis. These are not far-off risks. They are real, present dangers that can take a life in minutes. We are born with a genetic blueprint that we cannot change. We grow up and live our lives unaware that inside of us might be a tiny sequence of code quietly increasing our risk. And when the truth is finally revealed, it brings not fear, but a sense of sorrow. Sorrow for those who didn't know, didn't have the chance to prepare, didn't make it in time to prevent what could have been. But perhaps, this sorrow can also be a call to awareness. Knowing there is risk reminds us not to be careless. Genetics may play a role, but lifestyle is something we can control. Eating healthier, going for regular checkups, exercising often, quitting smoking, cutting back on alcohol, these are all within our reach. They are the ways we fight back, regardless of what genetic code we carry. Even if the truth is painful, knowledge is still a light. And hopefully, from this sadness, more people will choose to live mindfully, treat their bodies with care, and cherish every fragile moment in this unpredictable life. Life is often more fragile than we realize. Every heartbeat, every drop of blood flowing through our bodies may seem like a given, but they can be influenced by something as small as our genetic makeup, something we have no control over. The discovery of a link between blood type and the risk of stroke before the age of 60 is not just about statistics or scientific findings. Behind those numbers are real-life stories, the sorrow of lives lost too soon, the heartbreak of families left behind, and dreams that never had a chance to come true. The 8 parts of this story weren't shared to spread fear, but to remind us that while health may not always be within our control, our awareness of it certainly is. Whether your blood type is A, B, or O doesn't determine your entire future. But understanding your risk, how you live your life, how you care for your body, these are what shape the path ahead. Some people may carry high-risk genes, but they have overcome everything with a healthy lifestyle, strong family support, and the right choices in nutrition, exercise, and rest. Others, sadly, didn't even know they were at risk until a stroke struck without warning. We can't turn back time. But we can learn, we can change, and most importantly, we can share so that others won't have to experience the same loss. Stroke doesn't discriminate. Whether you're young and thriving, at the peak of your career, or just stepping into adulthood, the risk is always there, quietly lurking. And sometimes it takes just one small action, like going for a checkup, adjusting your diet, or simply learning your blood type, to save your life or someone else's. We, the creators of the Golden Wellbeing YouTube channel, hope that this series not only brings you valuable knowledge, but also inspires a deeper sense of care and awareness for your health and the health of your loved ones. If you found this story meaningful, please subscribe to Golden Wellbeing. Hit the bell icon so you won't miss our upcoming content. And more importantly, share this video with your friends and family. Let's spread this message of awareness, love, and responsibility for our most precious gift, our health. Thank you for being here with us.